Okay, guys, welcome back to a new video here. Pretty interesting news coming out. The son of Benjamin Netanyahu, who's living in Miami, by the way, and not fighting in the IDF, which is a whole other story, basically calling Joe Rogan anti Semitic. And the headline here is, well, Joe Rogan had the opportunity to have on Benjamin Netanyahu on his podcast, and Joe Rogan said no. Interestingly enough, said no. He didn't decline, said, I'm not going to have this guy on the show. Why would I do propaganda for him? Which is obviously what the Netanyahu and Israeli team were looking to do. That's why they were looking to do a podcast with the Nelk Boys. And now it's coming out, by the way, as far as the interview goes, which, by the way, that has over 150,000 dislikes the last time I checked. It's one of the most, it probably is the most disliked video in the history of the Full Send podcast. And they're even now admitting that they regret doing it because of all the blowback they've gotten. And number two, they were given scripted questions by the White House, which is just completely insane. So basically, the White House is trying to set up a propaganda tour for Netanyahu and team, which is just so insane. It's beyond parody. And here's the son of Benjamin Netanyahu, guys. And by the way, just to give you guys an idea of who this guy is, people, again, I recommend everyone to watch the movie The BB Files. Basically goes all in on Benjamin Netanyahu's corruption. And this comes at a time, by the way, where you're seeing children starve to death in the Gaza Strip. It is just beyond horrible what's going on there. So this is not the time to be doing a propaganda tour for the Israeli government and Benjamin Netanyahu. But Yair Netanyahu, the son of Benjamin, basically goes out there and says, great, because after Rogan, it comes, and by the way, this story was not out there until Netanyahu's son came out and said, great wake-up call for conservatives to remember Joe Rogan is not a conservative. He gave platform to every single neo-Nazi anti-Semite on this planet. It's planet, by the way. But he refuses to have on my father on a show because he knows that he doesn't stand a chance against him, and all those years of anti-Semitic propaganda will go to waste. So this is what you see happens here. So if you don't want to have on Benjamin Netanyahu, who's been indicted on war crimes, and you can feel whatever way you want, but he's been, he's without question one of the most controversial people on the planet, and doing pretty horrible things in the Gaza Strip right now. Joe Rogan's an anti-Semite for saying that, which is just so insane and like disgusting to say something like that. And listen, I do think it would have been interesting if he had him on the show, like if Rogan actually grilled him. But again, to be fair to Rogan, like, Benjamin Netanyahu's very good at manipulation. You saw that in the Nelk Boys interview. He was just completely like, oh, we're not even starving anybody. We're doing everything amazing. Like, Trump is amazing. I like Burger King, like just totally over the top, absurd stuff. But Yair Netanyahu basically coming out saying Rogan's an anti-Semite. And I do wonder if the White House tried to set this up with Rogan. Based on what the Nelk Boys are saying, it seems pretty clear that, yeah, maybe the White House tried to set up an interview, said, hey, Joe, let's give a softball interview to the Prime Minister of Israel here. And I'm sure Joe was like, yeah, no, this is not going to happen. It would have been interesting to see if he would have pushed back. But even so, I mean, you're going against one of the most skilled politicians on the planet. I mean, who obviously is going to be pushing an agenda and a narrative that Joe might not be equipped to do. And also, if it did not go well for Joe, he would have gotten immense blowback. And Joe has been relatively pro-Palestine on many of his takes, so I'm not surprised by this at all. I am surprised that BB thought this would be a good idea to go on Joe Rogan. I'm not sure. And even the Nelk Boys, I mean, it's completely backfired. I mean, the public outcry has been beyond insane. I mean, people are not happy with it. People are calling it a career killer for the Nelk Boys. Again, I'm not sure if I'm going to go that far, but clearly their propaganda tour here in the United States trying to go on these podcasts has not worked out. So, I mean, I think it's good for Joe actually making a stand here that, you know what, I'm not going to give platform this guy. I'm not sure if I can combat everything he's going to say here. So I'm not going to have him on. And of course, you see Yair Netanyahu and the Israeli government propagandists going out there saying, oh, he's basically anti-Semitic and that's all he does. He pushes propaganda. So, and I'm assuming he's talking about like Dave Smith and maybe that guy Daryl Cooper, who has some pretty wild stuff. But again, Dave Smith, I'm sure he's talking about, which is just ridiculous. Is that if you disagree with the actions of the Israeli government, they'll just come out, smear you as anti-Semitic, et cetera, every trick in the book. So, again, pretty wild stuff. Interesting. I'm not shocked, honestly, they didn't have him on. I'm about to do another video on Rogan and the Epstein files where I actually criticized Rogan, which you guys can check out later today, probably. But overall, pretty interesting stuff here. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Should Rogan have had him on? Should he not have had him on? overall, I think it's a pretty interesting discussion either way, especially because Rogan might have actually pushed back. But again, I think it was a pretty good decision for Rogan, probably not to have him on. So let me know what you guys think of the video, guys. Again, make sure to like and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. It's super good for the algorithm. My Patreon link is also down below if you want to support the channel in that way. So that's what I got for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good night, and I'll see you later.